Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Everyday English channel. I'm Peter, your host for today.
And I'm Sophia, your co-host. We're very happy to have you here. If you've ever found yourself hesitating when speaking English and pausing too much to find the right words, this episode is for you.
That's right. Many learners get stuck when speaking because they first think in their native language and then try to translate into English, which makes their speech sound unnatural.
Exactly. Speaking with fluency and naturalness is a major goal for English learners. In this episode, we'll share practical tips and exercises that can reduce those pauses and make your English more fluent. If you've ever felt frustrated because your words don't come out quickly enough or because you constantly stop speaking to think, stick with us. By the end, you'll have valuable strategies to think faster, speak more continuously, and feel more confident in English.
Great! Let's get started. Before we dive into solutions, let's first understand why so many people pause a lot while speaking English. What do you think are the main reasons, Sophia?
Excellent question. There are several reasons. The first is lack of confidence. When someone isn't sure of their English skills, they hesitate out of fear of making mistakes.
Insecurity really gets in the way. The person ends up thinking, is this correct? And their brain needs more time, slowing down the conversation.
Another factor is limited vocabulary. If a learner doesn't know the exact word, they stop to find it mentally, which makes their speech feel fragmented and choppy.
When your word bank is small, your brain must work extra hard to find synonyms or explanations, creating even more pauses. That's why expanding your vocabulary is essential. We'll cover how to do that soon.
There's also the habit of overthinking. Many try to form complete sentences in Portuguese and then translate them into English. But grammar and sentence structure vary between languages, and that translation process halts their flow.
Thinking in translation instead of forming ideas directly in English is a major obstacle. Fluency is about rhythm, not perfection.
Finally, there's nervousness and pressure. In conversations with native speakers, for example, a learner can become so anxious that they freeze and even forget words they already know.
Under stress, the mind slows down. That's why confidence-building exercises are so important, and we'll cover those today.
To recap, the 4 main reasons people pause while speaking English are lack of confidence, insufficient vocabulary, thinking in translation, and nervousness. Now that we know the problem, let's see how to fix it.
So, Sophia, what is the first technique to reduce these pauses and sound more natural when speaking English?
One of the best methods is to start thinking in English without translating. When your mind tries to convert a sentence from your language into English, it ends up doing 2 steps. First, it builds the idea in your native tongue, then it searches for English equivalents. That takes time and creates hesitation.
Thinking in English engages your brain to process directly. A practical way to train this is to describe in English what you see around you. The sun is shining. I see a bird flying. That conditions your thinking to be more natural.
Another valuable tip is to use filler words. While many people think fillers are unnecessary, native speakers use them to maintain flow. Expressions like well, you know, actually, and I mean give your brain a comfortable pause to find the next idea without causing awkward silence.
Indeed, saying something like, well, I think, or you know, that movie was great, keeps the conversation alive while you organize your thoughts.
A third powerful technique is shadowing. You listen to a native speaker and immediately repeat what they say, almost like an echo. This forces your mouth to reproduce the sounds and rhythms in real time, training pronunciation and intonation without pauses.
You can do this with podcasts, videos, or audiobooks. Pause after each sentence and repeat that exact intonation and those words without stopping. Over time, your brain will get used to speaking at the same pace, eliminating hesitations.
And here's one more. Don't strive for perfection all the time. Many learners pause because they're afraid of making mistakes. But in real conversations, mistakes happen, and that's okay. If you can't remember the word refrigerator, for example, say the thing that keeps food cold. That way, you keep the flow.
So, to recap the 4 main techniques: 1. Think in English instead of translating. 2. Use fillers to maintain flow. 3. Practice shadowing with native speakers. And 4. Accept that mistakes are normal and keep talking. Now that we understand some strategies, let's go deeper into how to train the brain to think and respond more quickly in English. What do you suggest first, Sophia?
To speed up thinking, we need to expand our vocabulary and mental database of ready-made phrases. If your brain doesn't have enough key words and common expressions stored, it will pause while searching for each term.
That's why, instead of memorizing isolated words, it's much more effective to learn whole phrases. For instance, instead of just learning opinion, learn the full expression "in my opinion." That way, when you want to share an opinion, that sequence comes to mind automatically.
Another essential technique is active listening. The more you listen to English, whether through podcasts, audiobooks, or authentic conversations, the faster your brain processes structures and sentence patterns. While listening, try to predict the next word or idea before the speaker finishes the sentence. This trains your mind to think ahead and respond more quickly.
A fun exercise is conversation anticipation. As someone is speaking, or as you listen to an audio, mentally pause before the end of their sentence and try to guess what comes next. Each correct guess trains your brain to recognize patterns and respond without much delay.
And we can't forget imitation. Choose a speaker whose style you admire, perhaps someone from a TV show, a YouTuber, or a speaker on a podcast, and try to replicate how they pronounce, their rhythm, and even their intonation. The more you expose your mind to that natural English, the faster it will process and produce responses at the same pace.
Summing up these 4 approaches: 1. Learn full phrases instead of single words. 2. Practice active listening and anticipate what comes next. 3. Do conversation anticipation exercises. And 4. Imitate native speakers to capture rhythm, pronunciation, and intonation. With these mental training strategies, let's now discuss practical exercises you can do to boost fluency. What's the first suggestion, Sophia?
One of my favorite exercises is the 1-minute speaking challenge. Pick any topic, something simple like my daily routine or my favorite food, and speak about it non-stop for a full minute. Even if you make mistakes, keep going until the timer runs out.
If a minute feels too hard at first, start with 30 seconds and gradually increase. The key is to train your mind not to slow down when you fear making mistakes.
Another valuable exercise is story retelling. Listen to a short podcast episode, a movie scene, or an audiobook excerpt. Then try to retell it in your own words. This improves fluency and reinforces recently learned vocabulary.
A third exercise is speed conversation practice. Use a timer and talk fast for 2 minutes straight with a friend or even in front of a mirror. The goal is to respond quickly without overthinking.
And for those without a conversation partner, using speech-to-text apps on your phone is a great alternative. Speak in English and see how accurately the app transcribes you. If it's correct, great. If not, you'll know which sounds you need to refine.
So, those are the 4 key activities to develop fluency. 1. The 1-minute speaking challenge. 2. Retelling stories in your own words. 3. Speed conversation practice. And 4. Using speech-to-text apps for immediate feedback. Beyond practical exercises, it's crucial to adopt some mindset shifts to build confidence and speak without fear. What should we keep in mind, Sophia?
We've talked about technique, but fluency also depends on how you approach mistakes and communication. The first mindset shift is understand that mistakes are part of learning. If you stay paralyzed thinking, "What if I slip up?" you'll hesitate even more. Even native speakers make errors and still get their message across.
Recognizing that correction doesn't happen in real time is liberating. Each mistake is an opportunity to improve later, not a reason to stay silent.
The second shift is focus on the message, not on perfection. The goal of speaking is to share ideas, feelings, or information. As long as people understand you, you've already succeeded.
Exactly. If your listener grasps your point, the conversation flows, even if your grammar isn't flawless.
Third point, speak with energy and confidence, even if you're not completely sure of yourself. If you hesitate or sound unsure, the audience will focus on your insecurity rather than your words. Make eye contact, smile, and speak in a firm tone. This way, people will pay attention to your message instead of fixating on small mistakes.
We're almost at the end, so let's recap everything we covered today and give our listeners a clear action plan.
Of course. First, we understood why people pause a lot: insecurity, limited vocabulary, thinking in translation, and nervousness.
Then we introduced techniques to reduce those pauses. 1. Start thinking directly in English. 2. Use fillers to keep the flow. 3. Practice shadowing to match a native speaker's pace. And 4. Accept that mistakes happen and continue speaking anyway.
Next, we discussed how to train the brain to respond faster. 1. Learn whole phrases instead of isolated words. 2. Practice active listening and predict upcoming content. 3. Do conversation anticipation exercises. And 4. Imitate native speakers to capture their rhythm and pronunciation.
We also highlighted practical fluency building exercises. 1. The 1-minute speaking challenge. 2. Retelling stories in your own words. 3. Speed conversation practice. And 4. Using speech-to-text apps for real-time feedback.
Finally, we addressed mindset shifts. 1. Mistakes are part of learning. 2. Focus on communication rather than perfection. And 3. Speak with energy and confidence, even if you don't feel 100% certain.
Here's your challenge. Choose one technique or exercise from today's episode and practice it throughout this week. The more you practice, the closer you'll get to fluency.
Don't forget to subscribe to Everyday English, leave a like, and share this episode. Tell us in the comments what your biggest challenge is when speaking English. We'd love to hear from you.
Thank you for listening. We'll see you in the next episode. Until then, Keep practicing and believe that you can speak English with confidence.
See you next time and happy learning!